Hello, and welcome to Book of the Mouse Club, episode 98, Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024.
Morning, monsieur.
Where are you off to?
The bookshop. I just finished the most wonderful story about a beanstalk and an ogre and
That's nice. Marie! The baguettes! Hurry up!
I'm sorry, but how can one possibly pay attention to a book with no pictures in it?
My dear child, there are a great many good books in this world without pictures.
I almost bounced clear out of the book. Some bouncing, huh?
Come home or make myself known.
J. Thaddeus Turtle, Esquire. Have you never met him? You will find his story in this delightful little book, The Wind and the Willows.
I've come to return the book I borrowed.
Finished already?
Oh, I couldn't put it down. Have you got anything new?
Welcome back. I'm your host, Courtney, and I'm joined as always by the Valentino to my star, my lovely co-host, Emily.
These are some of the two cutest new sidekicks to the Disney character lineup, and I'm really excited to talk about this and kick off our new season.
Yes, welcome to season 7. We're excited to kick off another year of reading discussions and soon a very special milestone episode. While our 100th episode is only 2 away, the Walt Disney Company celebrated its 100th anniversary recently and capped off the celebration with its latest animated feature, Wish. Thanks to our friends at Chronicle Books, we're reviewing The Art of Wish, which celebrates all of the love and artistry that went into making this film. Emily, would you care to give us a little background of the book itself before we discuss?
Sure thing. And again, thank you, our friends at Chronicle Books, who have been growing our libraries with many art of series. It's such a fun art book to have, and they look so beautiful on my shelf, and they're fun to explore and kind of dive deeper into these new films.
I feel like it's become an annual tradition for us on the show now.
It has, especially with new movies coming out, which is a fun way for us to have. I've never looked at animated films this way since receiving these books from Chronicle. So that's been really exciting to learn more about what goes into making these films. And I appreciate them so much more than I think I ever had, other than like nostalgia. I really appreciate the artistry now. So this book was published on October 26, 2023, and was just about a month before the film opened in theaters for the Thanksgiving release on November 22nd, 2023. I know you and I both went Thanksgiving weekend to see this. So from Chronicle Books, this is their publication of the information about this book. So I quote, "The Art of Wish is the next deluxe installment of the beloved Art of Disney series, which gives fans a look at the story behind the art and making of the newest Walt Disney Animated Studios feature, Wish. This all-new musical comedy welcomes audiences to the magical kingdom of Rosas, where Asha, a sharp-witted idealist, makes a wish too powerful that it is answered by a cosmic force, a small ball of boundless energy called Star. Together, Asha and Star confront a most formidable foe, the ruler of Rosas, King Magnifico, to save her community and prove that when the will of one courageous human connects with the magic of the stars, wondrous things can happen. Fans will discover how the characters, locations, and world of Wish were developed through never-before-seen concept art, character designs, storyboards, and color scripts. The Art of Wish celebrates the art of this landmark feature film and includes exclusive interviews, essays, and behind-the-scenes details about the creative development process of movie-making magic." So we have 2 authors for this. So we have Stephen Rebello, who is the author of acclaimed nonfiction books such as Real Art, great posters from the golden age of the silver screen, Alfred Hitchcock and the Making of Psycho, and Dolls, Dolls, Dolls. And 3 of the previous books for Walt Disney Animation Studios. He also authored The Art of Pocahontas, The Art of Hunchback of Notre Dame, and The Art of Hercules, The Chaos of Creation.
Those are throwbacks.
Yeah, throwbacks. I think he's just done a lot of the compiling, like how do you take all this research and quotes from people and
narrative.
Construct the whole narrative. And then we have Kimmer Baughman, who served as the creative executive on Walt Disney Animated Studios feature film Wish. Her passion for creating timeless stories with resonant themes and epic adventures brought her to Disney Animation, where she worked on Academy Award-winning film Encanto, Far from the Tree, and the Disney Plus series Tiana. And then throughout the book, we do hear from several people who worked on the film, such as Jennifer Lee, who is the creative Chief Creative Officer at Walt Disney Animation Studios and writer and executive producer for Wish. We also hear from Chris Buck and Fawn Viersenthorn, who were the directors of Wish, Peter Del Vecchio, and Juan Pablo Reyes Lancaster, who were both producers of Wish. So their quotes and mini essays are throughout the book as well.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like Stephen Rebello kind of serves as an editor of sorts, putting together their quotes, but I'm sure writing a lot of the more text-heavy pieces that we got into. But I found that interesting that he did several of the Renaissance books that I would love to get my hand on. When you were naming them, I was like, oh gosh, we're going back like close to 30 years there. But awesome that he came back for this one. So we will get into the book, of course, momentarily, but we always like to talk about the film itself. So this is, of course, your official spoiler warning if you have not seen Wish yet. But Emily, what were your overall impressions of the film, plot, characters, anything, of course, but the art, because we will be getting into the art.
Overall, I thought it was a great film. I did have some qualms. We can talk favorites and then criticisms maybe. But as a film for like, let's celebrate our 100th, let's go back to animation, I thought it was so sweet. The artistry is beautiful, which we're going to spend this entire episode talking about. And I liked the new songs. I was just so excited that it was an original story. Out of all of these like live action remakes we've had or series that keep getting either rebooted or sequels, it was really, really fun to get an animation in a new art form that celebrated everything Disney. So overall, I really enjoyed it.
I would say, and more importantly, a musical, because this was my gripe when we talked about the art of Strange World, because of course that was a very original story, but things like Raya, I think in every single one of those art of episodes, like I just really
it felt like we were going through, for lack of a better word, the Disney adequates, where we have not the first round Disney sorry, our friends at Disorder, they call the Disney adequates like Robin Hood and Aristocrats, but they are musicals.
Not bad movies. It's just we're maybe not.
But it felt like that mid 2000s where we were getting a lot of adventure films like Strange World, Raya, or like Atlantis and Treasure Planet. We were in an adventure film phase, and now we're maybe getting back to a musical phase.
Yeah, with Encanto and this, of course, Strange World was between Encanto and this one. I just love.
And this is being developed during Frozen 2.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, I think, take 3 to 5 years to develop. So that doesn't surprise me hearing that. That's just, you hear that for all of the Disney films. All that to say, I also really enjoyed this film. I went into it with very minimal expectations. And so I felt like they were exceeded in that regard. I wasn't too heavy in any of the online discourse where I think people were taking the songs out of context and making fun of them before that they were, had a chance to see it in the movie. I didn't listen to any of the songs, so I just went in blind, and I was crying multiple times.
Multiple times.
And I am not a big movie crier. I don't know if I've shared that too deeply. So if I do, that is a testament.
So what made you cry? Because I think for me, it wasn't so much like about Asha. I loved Asha, great heroine. We're going to talk about her. Wasn't necessarily about her journey itself that made me cry, but all of the nostalgia and Disney-y things that I kept seeing, like that made me emotional. Maybe as someone who's read like as much as we have and has really deep dived into the Disney history and its legacy, like that stood out to me. And I think that made me more emotional.
I really got choked up at what I would say is the climax of the film when they're standing up to Magnifico and fighting back against him. I don't know. I'm not gonna get too deep into this, but I live in Florida, and I don't know, maybe I felt some parallels there to rising up and the power of our unity and being together. So that definitely got me choked up. But then, like you, really the Disney nostalgia as the credits began and you started to see the constellations of basically every prominent Disney film from Walt Disney Studios animation, I was like, oh my gosh, like they're doing, like it clicked for me, like, okay, we're doing all of them. And so that just got me choked up seeing them and basically reliving my whole childhood.
And then the end after credits scene.
The after credits, like just when I thought it was clear, right ripping my heart out there. So I thought it was such a beautiful love letter to the Walt Disney Animation Studios legacy. That became even more prevalent for me as we read the book, for sure.
Yeah, I think the book did help me understand the film a little bit better. Granted, at the time of this recording, Wish is not available yet on Disney Plus, so I have only seen it in theaters, and at the time that this recording reaches you all on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you listen to us, it's been 2 months now since I've seen the film, so you got to revisit it again before recording.
I did last night. I saw it at Thanksgiving just like you did, and then I'm gonna be transparent here. You know, mental health is important. I was definitely having a bit of a depressive episode lately and put off reading this, and I knew that I needed to read it the day before, which I do for the art books just because they really are something that you can read in one sitting.
Mhm.
And I was just feeling so intimidated by it. I don't know, you just sometimes you're in that funk and you're like, I don't have the motivation. And
Yeah.
bless my husband, so kind. This is like major husband brownie points.
We love Dr.
offered-
Doug.
We love Dr. Doug. He offered to read some of it to me to get me started. And so I just like sat there curled up as he read me the first 10 pages. And then I was like, okay, like you don't have to read the whole book to me. You helped me get out of my shell here. And then he was still interested though, so we alternated reading pages, and that was just such a beautiful experience for me. Definitely unexpected. I don't think we've ever done that before, nor do I see that probably happening again. But having spent that 2 hours together reading the book and getting into it deep together, he said we should go see the movie if it's still playing. We are fortunate enough to have AMC A-list. We had a reservation spot available, so he's like, let's just check if it's playing. And of course, it was still playing at Disney Springs, one of our local 3 AMC options. So we got to see it last night after reading the book, and that made it feel really special to me because I feel like in my other approaches, I am usually one to see the movie first and then read the book, and then we chat basically the next day. So that was really special for me.
I think the book also, and maybe this is where maybe some people were haphazard. So unlike our fairy tale favorites, there is no original text for this fairy tale. So when you're so used to the Disney formula of having like a Grimm's fairy tale or Hans Christian Andersen, where you know there's going to be kind of already a built-in, not a very developed plot as you've listened to some of our fairy tale favorites, but you kind of have something you're working towards, like you know what the wish is. We didn't have a lot of context coming in. So I think that really might have thrown some viewers off who are very used to the golden age of Disney. But also maybe getting to the heart of what is this film trying to do, other than bringing people together and granting wishes. But I learned a lot from this, especially when director Chris Buck explained how they researched and developed this film. Because since there is no original text, they kind of created their own backstory. In our fairy tale favorites, we've looked at like how Hans Christian Andersen, who he is, what it's like growing up in Denmark, what is that kind of folklore. All of that's informative of what then Disney created, but they actually created something totally new. So I want to read this piece from page 14 about the process he said they put together, and I want to know your thoughts about it. So he says, I quote, this is Chris Buck. We studied our own history. The first thing I did was pin up an image from each Disney animation feature film on a board. Seeing the breadth of what this studio has done over the last 100 years was pretty overwhelming. We wanted to celebrate the films, the people that worked on them, and Walt Disney himself. So that's how they got started. They just picked a screenshot from every film and put those up and said, how can we create a story about this?
Yeah, I thought that was really nice. And you could see that throughout the book, like when they were talking about the legacy of villains or, different types of pixie dust, for lack of a better word, as they were determining what kind of dust the character of Star should have. That really got me thinking as we were reading this together yesterday. And I feel like it absolutely fits the aesthetic of those classic Disney fairy tale films. You have the book at the opening, the once upon a time type thing. And thinking about it now, I feel that, of course, a lot of those Disney films like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella were my introduction on home video to those fairy tales. And that's what I associate with those fairy tales. I could easily see children of the future thinking that this was based on some kind of fairy tale if you've watched those other films and, them being many years removed, like we were in the 90s from those films of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, um, be like, oh wait, this isn't a fairy tale because it has, I would say, all of those hallmark moments and is well constructed in that regard.
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting. And I think that's what, after reading this, helped me understand the film's aims and its goals. Like, its goal was to create a fairy tale. Throughout the book, they talk about how that's really the hallmark of a Disney story, is fairy tale-ish, or at least that first half of Disney's history. So they wanted a fairy tale. They wanted a fairy tale look. And a lot of their films, as they look, that we talked about this in the Renaissance, the I Want songs. A lot of these films are based around wishes or dreaming. Each of these characters long for something that is not currently in their life, and they go after it. So they knew they needed to do something like that as well. And so they really took the wish part and made it front and center and more literal, I think, than what we've seen in some places. Like, Ariel has a wish. She wants to be human, but she doesn't like say, I wish to be human. Like, they don't say it as wishes or dreams. They say it in lots of different ways.
Yes.
Or Belle, adventure in the great wide somewhere. But this really made it very literal, and was really pushing that this is what Disney does, is they talk about dreams, we talk about wishes, and then we go after them and make them.
Absolutely. And I feel, your wishes can be a wide range of things, as we see with the people of Rosa. So I just, again, found this film to be an utter delight. I get that it didn't land for everyone, but this is one that I am looking forward to owning. I am still a proponent of physical media. I mean, I'd love for it to be on Disney Plus, hopefully soon. I feel like
my qualms with it are so nitpicky.
Yeah, what are they?
My main qualm was just, I thought Magnifico as a villain, his arc moved way too fast. Like, I didn't get why he's so adamant about hanging on to everyone's wishes for himself, because I get that he wants to be like the ruler that everyone loves, but I was like, there's no competition. Like, there's nothing suggesting to me that he has to do something to hang on to all these people. And we get that that origin story of like why they moved to Rosas and how they created the kingdom. He was leaving persecution and he wanted to create a safe space for people. But the leap to then where we got with this vanity that becomes so destructive, I just felt moved a little too fast, and I didn't quite understand his motivations. I understood how that was paramount for Asha and for the people who lived in Rosas. Like, that was a big pull and plot point. I just thought for him, I was just like, nothing's challenging you. There was nothing saying that people didn't love you. Like, I didn't get why he became so obsessed, because I didn't see a conflict for him.
Yeah.
What was being taken away? He already made it to this place. He already created this utopia. I didn't get why, or I was waiting for something to be more said about hoarding the wishes, like did
more
something.
Stakes involved.
Right, or if he grants them all, like he loses all his power. Like, what is the stake of not granting the wishes, other than he now makes his population dependent on him? But I didn't see why they needed to be. Like, they were going to be anyway. No one's threatening you as a ruler. There's no war. I was very conflicted by that. But again, nitpicky. He's a cool villain.
Oh, yeah.
Great song.
I was gonna say, I feel like it was nice to have a villain with actual magic powers again, because that is something that I feel has been lacking recently. Like, the villains have sometimes been more abstract. Like, there's not really a villain in Encanto. Like, the villain is more like
family trauma
and what you like, self-doubt, abstract things like that. Yeah, there's just more like conflict between them and Raya, but really no elements of magic involved. And to me, that is such a hallmark of those fairy tale stories, and even some of our beloved Renaissance films like Aladdin, like Jafar being the sorcerer. I was definitely getting those vibes, and saw that when they mentioned that in the book as well. So I was like, I don't know, I'm just happy to have magic be at play again.
Yeah, again, like, that's my one like qualm of this entire movie. But other than that, like, great songs, funny characters, a new heroine that I think people can relate to, moving moments. Like, it had everything you want in a Disney film for me.
Yeah.
So even with that, I would still give it like 8.5, 9 stars.
Yeah, I'm not too big on rating things, but I'd probably put it there. Like, I'm not saying it's a perfect film, but I think it was just the film that I needed
Mhm.
in my emotional state right now. So I don't know. That's why I took to it, and I look forward to watching it at home. And something else I really liked about it is its very unique art style, which is
Yes.
what we are here to dive into. So I think that's one of the main buzzes about this film. It has this aesthetic of like 2D animation meets computer generated animation. So what were your thoughts about its aesthetic and design?
This is what captured my attention first. Like I think most people, I saw the introduction to this film in Walt Disney World in the Art of Disney, or sorry, the Walt Disney Presents. So getting to see So I Make This Wish, and like a good 15-minute block of it, what
Oh
I
wow.
noticed, it's just yeah, they showed a decent
I never
piece.
go in there. Well, I go in there to see the Walt Disney things, and I rarely watch the
The
trailers. So sorry,
previews.
yeah, what all did they show you?
They showed This Wish
Mhm.
like from that
In its
beginning.
entirety.
And then it went through where like Valentino gets his voice and you
Oh
meet
wow.
Star for the first time. So like you saw a good 15-minute block.
Yeah, they did that for the Emma Watson Beauty and the Beast, and just
Mhm.
like showed the whole opening number, not the backstory of the beast, but the Bonjour sequence
Mhm.
essentially. And I don't know, I was like, this is too much of the film for me to see. So
That's
I
fair.
stopped going to those previews because I like a trailer that teases a little bit, but
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not ready to see a significant chunk of the film. But I'm glad you got to see that, and that it did intrigue you regarding this art style.
Yeah, that is what stood out to me. And I think that's what got a lot of other people's attention because for a minute you kind of looked at it like we saw Princess and the Frog, and I was like, hand-drawn animation. But it's really interesting how they talked about creating a whole new CG method that uses computers and artistry, but how do you make CG now look more like hand-drawn? And they described it as moving illustrations or moving paintings.
Well, I think moving paintings was what Walt described
Yes.
Sleeping Beauty as. So they're like, we want to go for that vibe, but we're calling it moving illustration for this.
And that's what it looks like. It's supposed to be kind of that fairy, it looks very fairy tale-ish. It's medieval. It does take a lot of Ivan Earl-esque. They said the vegetation was very inspired by Sleeping Beauty. The wide screenshots is all inspired, like a lot of Sleeping Beauty in this.
Yes.
Wide screenshots of Sleeping Beauty, the depth.
The foliage.
And they said they were inspired by watercolor, like
Mhm.
how the illustrations, and it does kind of have like a canvas texture to it if you like watch it long enough and like look at one particular piece. And I do see the watercolor. It's just such a unique thing. And after having so many films, and this is not knocking Tangled and Strange World, Raya, Frozen, which is beautiful in their own ways, but we've had a lot of films that have that same artistry of CGI that it's really nice to see them use CG in a very different way.
No, I would absolutely agree. And I liked, particularly in the book, hearing about how they came to refine that process. And the test moment where it clicked was when they had rendered Asha in her animated form and inserted her into backgrounds from Pinocchio to see
Yes.
does this work, and it did. And that's when it clicked that they're like, okay, like we can do this for real. So it definitely has that stylistic background. I would say that were very prevalent in Snow
Hmm.
White, Pinocchio, and Dumbo. And then I remember
Yes.
when Lilo and Stitch came out, that was a return to watercolor backgrounds. And there was a bit in Mulan as well. So that was a nice tie to see within the Disney legacy in its artistic style there.
And that's something this book does really well is because it's a film about honoring the Disney legacy, they also show you this side by side. Like they show you some shots side by side of here's our inspiration from Pinocchio, from Sleeping Beauty, from Snow White, Dumbo, and then you can see where it is. So as much as we got all these like Easter egg moments and shout outs like in the constellations to Disney films, you can see a lot in this book as well. Designs of characters, etc., where all that comes from.
Yeah, you mentioned Easter eggs, and they were certainly something that I was looking for when I watched this film, and I know we'll get into them more, but that's what I also enjoyed about this book was how sometimes they explicitly tell you some of the Easter eggs and things to look out for, which I think also played into us wanting to go see it again yesterday. So I look forward to that for our listeners and reading pals who may read this book and then have a chance to watch it once it comes to Disney Plus at some point. I'm assuming, hopefully soon, because it's something that I want to continue to revisit.
So let's talk about your favorite part of the film, Star. I remember you saw the film before I did. I saw it on Black Friday for my mom's birthday. My mom's birthday always falls around Thanksgiving, so we tend to go see the new Disney film together as a family. We still do that. But you saw it before me, and immediately you're sending me pictures. I think it's the one you posted in our Instagram that you're like, so this is Star, and there's merch. I have a star now.
I have a star now. Yeah, we tend to see it. Our tradition is these films typically, if they're a Thanksgiving release, actually come out on the Wednesday, being the day before Thanksgiving. I typically do work that day, and then you get out a little early. Happy holidays, and go see it that evening. Often at Disney Springs, though that's not my closest movie theater. There's something special about seeing a Disney film at Disney Springs. So went to see that Wednesday afternoon, and then immediately went throughout Disney Springs to see what Star merch was out there. And yes, I bought a giant Star pillow plush, which sits on my couch and is very comfy as a pillow. I did not buy the hat that I'm wearing. I was like, I don't know if I'm a hat girly, but I was here for all of the Star merchandise, and I just absolutely adore this character. Like, I don't think I'll ever get a tattoo, but like I would consider getting a Star tattoo. I love them that much, and I really liked what they had to say about Star in the book. Making of a Star chapter kicks off with, Star is the ultimate giver of all things positive, all possibility, wonder, magic, inspiration, a giver of life, a giver of purpose. Like, that is what I needed. And it's so clear in Star's expressions. It's just the cutest character I have seen in a long time. Valentino, the baby goat, is cute, but I don't know, he had like that snarkier edge to him, and Star just seemed so pure.
So I like this comparison you made of Valentino and Star, because I think this is something we know so well from Disney films, is who are the sidekicks to the main character. And it kind of reminded me almost of Pocahontas, where you get like a small group instead of like just one side character. Like you have Iago, or you have
Flounder. Well, no, you get Flounder and Sebastian.
Flounder and Sebastian. But what's interesting about them is Star is a miming character. It's all pantomime. Whereas Valentino, you get the voice. So they play off each other so well, because one has to do more with expressions and movement, whereas the other one can just use their voice. So I thought that was a really nice way to round out their trio. But what I loved most about Star, kind of going down the line, learning more about this little bundle of light, is that all of their expressions.
I'm gonna say Star's pronouns are maybe they, them. I don't know. I tried to pay attention in the movie, and they just refer to Star as Star. So whatever you want Star to be, Star will be.
Star is for everybody. Everyone wishes on Star. All of Star's expressions are based off of Mickey Mouse, from the early stages of Mickey Mouse. Like, a lot of the pictures they have in here showing those expressions are from one of my favorite Mickey Mouse cartoons, Through the Looking Glass, as well as the band leader. So a lot of those early like 40s, 50s Mickey, not Steamboat Willie Mickey, but once Mickey had
in
more
Technicolor, he's got his red shorts, but you have the widow's peak, I guess I'd call it, like the more defined facial structure.
And he's got the roundness of Mickey. Like, Star's shape is very much Mickey's belly. And then Mickey himself is almost like a star, because then you've got 2 arms, 2 legs, and your head is your 5 points. So all they did was kind of like take Mickey and shrink him down even more. And that's why he's just so cuddly and cute.
No, I absolutely adored Star, but was very interested to learn that Star had quite a bit of development. I am so glad they landed where they did regarding that character, but Star was almost a boy and a love interest. We got some concept of that. It's giving Peter Pan, it's giving Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians.
There's a platypus version. That one caught my attention.
Yeah, there are a lot of different takes on Star. So it was interesting to see, I would say, really in depth into the development of a character that maybe we haven't quite seen the likes of in these art of books. I think,
Mhm.
sometimes we see different outfits or hairstyles considered, but this was like we did not know what this character was going to be, and here is everything we considered. And everything happens for a reason because I am so glad that they landed where they did.
And I think it really helped drive the message home of wishing upon a star, make the character a literal star.
Yes.
Instead of like a star that comes down and then now it's in human form or can change different forms. I like that they, like you said, they said it came down to simplicity. The best art is simplistic. They needed Star already represented so many other things that Star's design needed to be simpler.
And we can't go through this without talking about one of our other main characters, of course, our heroine, Asha. So, what do you think about Asha as the next Disney heroine?
Asha is so cool. I really liked Asha. I especially love that she's a tour guide, maybe because I'm also a tour guide. But I really love that bubbliness about her. She kind of has like a brain, kind of like Anna's, where it goes in multiple directions at one time.
It is very much the quirky Disney heroine of
Yeah,
the late 2000s and 2020s.
but it's nice to see how she cares for her family. We've got multiple generations in her family, which is something we don't really see. On Hanto, we had multiple family generations, but this was another extension of that. We have her 100-year-old grandfather, which ties in with the 100 years of Disney. We have her mom. Um, so it was really interesting to see her family dynamic, and then how much she loves her town, but also wanting that extra. This wish is all about that. It's that emotional I want song. That I really like that she doesn't have a specific wish. Like we know from all of our past, like I said before, like Ariel, we know she wants to be human and among the people. Belle, we know she wants to get out of her town. Like there's very specific wants. And I feel like hers is actually the most relatable, where we do all have goals, but overall, her wish is that she just wants more opportunity, more challenges. She might not know exactly what she wants, but she knows that she wants something and wants to have the opportunity to pursue it. And I think that was really powerful for me that, again, I work with high school students. I talk to them all the time about they're getting this pushed on them of like, you need to know what you want to do. And we've all been there. What are you going to be when you grow up and you're 17 years old? And you're like, I don't know. And I think that was really powerful for me to have a character whose wish is just more happiness, more opportunities, more togetherness. It's just an amplification of what she has. It's not a very specific wish, but it's a very powerful one at the same time. And I think it's one that a lot of people can identify with. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I loved her character design and how they ultimately settled on her box braids and were able to tie it into the timing and the region of this. We didn't quite mention this yet in the fairy tale section, but I enjoyed learning that they wanted this to be the first fairy tale. Like if you're thinking
Mhm.
about the Disney films chronologically, this takes place around the 13th century. And so um they were
Predates.
able to, yeah, to be able to tie that look and feel into the region. You get to hear from quite a few historians and experts outside of the Disney Company, but who were consultants on the film as part of this book. And it's cool that she has ties to the Mediterranean region, both like in the Italian seascape element
Mhm.
of that, but also the North African history.
What I thought was so interesting, especially that they chose the Mediterranean that they brought out, was that they wanted this film to really reflect how diverse all of us are. They said like they wanted everyone to find someone in this film that they could identify with or see themselves as, and they wanted this film to be as diverse as possible. And they found historians that proved it. Mediterranean was the perfect place for it because it was the crux of trade. This is where all different cultures came together. So, like seeing her house and her design, like you said, having those different styles, it has that Mediterranean Italian influence, but then the North African influence of the furniture and the pattern work in her cottage, the clothing she wears, her hair, but also how she speaks. I thought that was really cool and showed a whole new level of research that I didn't think about. Again, not having a fairy tale structure from a previous fairy tale to kind of go off of. It's really cool how they created their own origin story.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And I think that's clear throughout the characters. I liked learning more about her friend Dahlia and the influence that people with disabilities had on that. Some storytellers, I believe he shared that he had MS and he uses an assisted device to walk. And so, she gets to have that, but it's not, deep into her character as like this burden or anything. That is how
It's her life.
she is thriving in her life, and having her important job in the castle. And I know that representation meant a lot to people in that community.
We need Dahlia's cookies in the park.
Yes, they did look really good.
That would be so fun to have that on like in the Main Street Bakery. You can get Dahlia's cookies.
Yeah, or give her a bakery. I feel like a Kingdom of Princess expansion
fun.
would be cool. Maybe just that main town area, like where you would do the wishing type ceremony, would work well.
So let's get into these Easter eggs, because for me, this was by far my favorite part of the film. The first one I noticed was in Magnifico's lab, we'll say, his lair. I saw the poison apple and I was like, that's very much like, this wasn't hiding Easter egg. This is very much poison apple. And then after that moment, I was like, are they going to have more? And then I started seeing them purposely looking for those things. So what did you think about all these Easter eggs? Any that you immediately saw?
Yeah, I would say I was delighted to see them. I feel like that is a criticism that people have of this film that I've seen online. Like, oh, there are too many Easter eggs. I'm like, okay, they were clearly from this book. I've learned really trying to celebrate the 100-year legacy of the animation studio. So, like, if you're going to throw a bunch of Easter eggs in, this is the time to do that. But this is also something that Disney has done for a long time. Think about Aladdin. You can see the Beast in the Sultan's,
yeah, the tower of animals,
of toys and things.
Belle's
The
and Hunchback
genie,
of Notre Dame.
and we'll stop just focusing on Aladdin. If you're like, oh, there's too many of these, the genie pulls Sebastian out of a cookbook. He turns into Pinocchio at some point. Like, this is nothing new to Disney. This is just as much part of Disney's legacy as other things, or at least, in our lifetime, for sure. So I liked the Easter eggs. I feel like that absolutely lends itself to repeat viewings to see what you spot the next time. One that was obvious to me on the first watch, it probably took me 2/3 of the way through the film to be like, oh, that's what they're doing. But the 17s is the 7 dwarfs. I definitely did pick up on. Like, it was pretty obvious, like when one of them was sneezing, one of them was tired, one of them was a bit grumpy. I was like, okay, I'm getting dwarf vibes. And I was like, all right, the introverted girl is obviously bashful. And what I learned from this book was that they really committed to that, because you don't really, I would say their names were not as obvious in the film. Like, they get dropped here and there in conversation, but they are not our main characters. But the letters of each of their names, like Dahlia is Doc, they tie directly to their corresponding dwarves. And so I picked up on that on first viewing. I remember telling Doug that, and he's like, no, I totally didn't notice that. And I was like, all right, well,
I didn't notice it either.
Okay, I
thought it was interesting. I was like, she has a really big group of friends, which that was something I've seen online too, where some people were excited to see a character who has more friends than just the animal, or
like just random
Belle's
friends.
case, the anthropomorphic objects as friends. Like, they have actual friends in a town where they live. But I didn't quite pick up on the 7 dwarfs until afterwards. My family, we were trying to like shout out all the different Easter eggs we found. And then we went online and we're like, what other ones did people find? And we saw that. And now, especially in the book, when they talked about color scripting, and seeing the development of these characters, they have the characters lined up under a picture of each dwarf. And it's very, very clear with their mannerisms and the colors of their outfits, and how they carry themselves very much
in that way. Yeah, I started
dwarves.
being like, all right, that person's sneezing a lot, and that dude's very sleepy. I started counting, and I was like, oh, there's 7 people here. Okay, let me put this together. And I was like, well, he has Dopey's coloring in his hat and his shirt. So that was a big one to me. The use of lime green for villain magic.
That one I saw.
Like, I remember dating myself from my Tumblr days. Like there was a screen cap of like the green fire and be prepared, Maleficent's green fire, Ursula's green spell book. There were plenty others. It was like if you see lime green in a Disney film, you better watch out. So I liked that legacy
It
was
had the
kept intact.
it had the storybook opening.
Oh
Like that
yeah,
was
yeah.
very
And
clear
the pictures
callback.
were absolutely Sleeping Beauty. Like the storybook has been used in a lot, but the artistic style of those pictures themselves were Sleeping Beauty.
I saw Sleeping Beauty's dress. The girl whose wish is granted that she wants to have her own dressmaking business and be a professional dressmaker. The picture in her bubble was Sleeping Beauty's dress, and it was blue.
I noticed this time, that same person, it's very subtle. When I say this time, I mean the most recent watch. When she's getting her wish granted, her outfit has a very subtle, like blue and pink color scheme to it, split down the middle. And I was like, okay, I see what you're doing there. Another one that I noticed, second time around in the opening song where she's kind of going through about the Kingdom of Roses, there's a puppet show that's detailing some of the history, and I was like, oh, Hunchback, like Clopin's
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Bells of Notre Dame. I'm like, that's giving Hunchback. Most of not to like imitate Gen Z, but most of this movie you can be like, it's giving Sleeping Beauty, it's
giving vibes,
it's giving Disney history vibes. So it was nice to get into some of that more deeply within the book, and set me up for a really fun rewatch. So I hope that everybody else gets the chance to do that as well sometime soon.
There are a couple that I want to kind of shout out that I did not pick up on at all until I read this book. So if you're someone looking for the Easter eggs, this is definitely a book to get. So some that reference films, the bubbles, the wish bubbles are Cinderella bubbles. When Cinderella's doing, I didn't quite like make that connection until I saw it and they're next to each other. And I was like, oh. Another cool one is all the water features of like droplets and stuff in the water all came from the Nutcracker suite in Fantasia.
Yes, that was one that I learned.
So that was interesting. And then the other one, significance of roses. And then they talked about, there's a piece in here in this book about all the different roses that are used throughout other different films, like Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast. Snow White has lips the shade of a rose. Like roses have played actually a huge part as a symbol in Disney films and in fairy tales. So that's why they chose the rose. And then in Asha's house, there's a spinning wheel, which is a reference to Sleeping Beauty. There's wishing wells in multiple places because they're like, Snow White, wishing wells, make wishes, anything they could about wishes. And then the ones that were really deep, that for our more Disney history people, if you've read Marcy Carricker's mother's book, where we talked about Walt's dreaming tree and how they took a plant of that tree and brought it to Disneyland. You can see propagated tree from that original tree on the railroad of Disneyland. They had Asha's tree designed after Walt's dreaming tree in Marceline, and that blew my mind.
And there's a beautiful picture that ends this book of Walt and Roy at the dreaming tree. So that was very sweet. I really just would say overall for this book, it very much enhanced a story that I already enjoyed by showing to me what a testament and love letter this was to the legacy of Disney animation.
Right. And there's something I want to read from the creative co-production designer, Lisa Keene. She says in the book, quote, "No one is going to know we've done all these classic Disney animation techniques, but you're going to feel it," end quote. And so while we saw some Easter eggs that were very clear Easter eggs from films, a lot of the design parts, what's in the background, how they did the lighting, the colors they chose, all of that is there. And I think that's what sold this film for me so much, was the feeling of it. It felt Disney.
Yeah, I would say that transitions really well into our last question here. Overall, how well do you think Wish did in its mission to honor the 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company and its celebration of Disney's greatest art form, animation?
Well, I think after definitely reading the preface and forward of this book, where they very clearly said our film is meant to honor the art form, the storytelling, and the technology and artistry of Disney, I think they nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. That we have a whole new original fairy tale. We have storytelling. We have powerful music. Its detail is incredible. Like we said, of Sleeping Beauty, Pinocchio, some of the most two ornate Disney animated films. I think they definitely nailed it. And especially with the Easter eggs, that made it fun for me. All the call outs to the other films. Like if your goal is to celebrate everything Disney has done and make me feel nostalgic, which Disney excels at, then it's 100% for me.
I would agree. I'm gonna just like make up an analogy here, but I feel like if me going to see this movie back in November was like going to a birthday party and being given a piece of cake, I would say this cake is absolutely delicious. I enjoyed nearly every bite of it. But now, in preparing for this episode, I got to read the recipe behind the cake, and I have a deeper appreciation for all that went into that yummy piece of cake.
All the different layers.
All the layers, so many layers.
It's a layered cake.
It's a layered cake.
But did you bake the cake, unlike Flora, who did not bake the cake?
All the magic. The cake was not toppling over. It was a well-constructed piece of cake, at least in my opinion.
So this book ends. I thought this was super sweet. So I loved the picture of Roy and Walt and Roy at the Dreaming Tree. And you pointed this out to me. I almost missed it. It's after the acknowledgments, but the final page before the picture is When We Wish Upon a Star, and it's all of the different directors, producers, co-producers, production managers, designers, writers sharing a wish that they have. And I thought that was so sweet. So to end our discussion, we're kicking off season 7. It's a new year. What are our wishes for our season 7 of Book of the Mouse Club?
Yeah, I wish that we will continue to keep to our wonderful schedule here. Just again, full transparency for our listeners. You may have noticed we've always met our commitment of having an episode once a month. I feel like there was one point in 2020 where we had 4 episodes in a month because that's
Why
just
not?
what we were doing in April of 2020. We have always met that commitment to once a month, and we continue to honor that. I am currently in grad school and will hopefully be wrapping up by the end of 2024 in December. So my wish is that we will strike the right balance of bringing you the content that you love on our planned schedule.
I'm really proud of us. 7 years of being committed to reading books, talking together. I mean, some people don't make it through the first couple weeks of a book club, and we've made it through 7 years. So I think that's a wonderful wish. My wish is that we have a lot of cool things hopefully planned for this season. We've sent out some emails. We're trying to get in touch with quite a few authors. So my wish is that we are able to bring these exciting people on our show, grow our literary circle, and get to bring that content to you all. So here's hoping emails get answered and delivered and found.
A very worthy wish. What a nice way to cap off this episode. Though, of course, we would not be capping it off correctly if we did not include our additional resources. So what have you picked, Emily?
So one that jumped out to me is in the research section of this book from Wish. They talked about some of the authors and books that they pulled, and there was one that was very familiar. They Drew as They Please series by Didier Getz. We read that book. We talked to that author. You can go back to episode number 37 of our podcast and hear about that. But they turned a lot to his research to look at how all of the different films, concept art, and animation came together. Some of these classic Disney animators that we can't talk to anymore. So they turned to that 6-volume set, and we talked about that volume set. And I think we read book number 3. I remember it had Robin Hood. I was in the 70s, and that's my favorite. So I now own all 6 books in that set because of our interview, but that is something that is very attainable. You can either go listen to our interview or think of your favorite Disney film and go find the volume that has that film in it.
Great recommendation. And I think something that goes hand in hand with this celebration of Disney 100 is the Disney's Once Upon a Studio animated short. The film features characters from all 62 studio feature films, numerous short films, and even some live-action Disney films that feature animation, such as The Reluctant Dragon, Mary Poppins, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, as well as Pete's Dragon. I think both of us cried watching
Yeah.
this short, much like watching Wish. So it's incredible to have all of those animated characters together in one place. As we shared earlier at the time of this recording, Wish is not on Disney Plus, but this short absolutely is. So if you are still celebrating the Disney 100th anniversary like we are, I would absolutely encourage you to check it out or rewatch it.
And I do have one more. This was kind of just nostalgic for me, is every time I keep seeing the word wish, I say wishes. And really thinking about Wishes, a magical gathering of Disney dreams. Never knew the official title, by the way. This was a fireworks show at the Walt Disney World Resort from 2003 to 2017. It did also have some iterations at the Disneyland Resort as well as the Disneyland Paris. But this was a show that was really special to both of us because this is the show during our Disney College program, but it's all about wishes. It's very much, if you want to put a soundtrack and a fireworks show to the feeling of Wish, I think this sells it for me. So if it's been a while since you've listened or watched, it is available on YouTube. You can find its soundtrack on Spotify and Apple Music. Or if you've never seen it, maybe this was from before you've ever gone to the Disney parks, I highly encourage you to check it out.
That just makes me think of how they would update Wishes with this movie coming out.
Oh
And
my
it's
gosh,
like,
could you
oh, it would have
imagine?
been so good.
We need Wishes 2.0.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll find a way to work it into whatever future nighttime spectaculars are at Disney. I have a bougie second recommendation that I don't think I even told you about, but I recently had the opportunity to stay club level at the Grand Destino Tower, which is at Disney's Coronado Springs Resort. And I'm local. I like to do my little staycations, and we stayed club level at 3 or 4 other Disney resorts. But this was the first time that I noticed in the club level they had books like that you could just peruse through. And they were all either the Art of Disney books or they were They Drew as We Please series. So I forgot to text you that while I was staying there because I was just filling up on my club level cupcakes and treats. But just something to consider if you're planning your future Disney vacations. We really enjoyed our stay there, and it was nice to immerse yourself in that art because, as we've talked about on a previous episode with the relationship between Salvador Dali and Walt Disney, this resort, the Grand Destino Tower at Disney's Coronado Springs Resort, is very much inspired by Salvador Dali and the Destino short. So a little random,
all about Disney and art.
A little like aspirational, but fun tie that occurred recently for me.
Yeah, if you're enjoying Disney and art, go immerse yourself and stay in a whole resort based on Disney and art, which is really cool. We love that place. You introduced me and my partner to Grand Destino Tower, and it's now one of our favorites.
I'm so glad to hear that. Well, as we shared earlier, we are quickly approaching episode 100. Just one episode stands between this one and that one. So that'll be episode 99. Will be an author interview. We will be interviewing A.A. Forenger, the author of the Miles Mitchell Mysteries. So Miles Mitchell is a private investigator with a lifetime pass to the most magical place on Earth. Miles handles cases in and around and about the most popular vacation spot in Florida. Having grown up in the parks, he not only knows the geography of the parks, but trivia and history that help him untangle quandaries, problems, and dilemmas. People call Miles to do surveillance, find missing persons, and things that he tries to figure out why some vloggers just can't get along. Just don't call him out to find your son Nemo, a girl missing a glass slipper, or a magic feather. He hates those calls. Miles Mitchell's Mysteries is a collection of short stories, a bit of noir, inside stories, and minutiae of one of the most popular travel locations in the world, or should we say, the Walt Disney World. So this will be fun to get into interviewing the author, who is a Disney cast member. This is a little, side publishing for him, unofficial. But I think this will be a really fun interview and a story that I am absolutely intrigued to read. The books are available from Dorrance Publishing Group.
This is really interesting because it's such a mashup of genres. We haven't done a ton of mystery outside of Broken Heart. Now we have short stories, we have noir. There's a lot going on here, and I'm really intrigued to see how they combine trivia and history and some of the nonfiction stuff we've explored, but put it into a fictional way to learn it.
Absolutely. I think that'll be a lot of fun. So stay tuned to February for that selection. In the meantime, you can keep up with Book of the Mouse Club on Instagram at Book of the Mouse, or email us at bookofthemouseclub@gmail.com with comments, questions, and suggestions. Please be sure to leave us a review wherever you're listening to the podcast so that others can read and listen along with us. You can keep up with me, Courtney, on Instagram at Great Gutsby.
And I'm Emily on Instagram at Emily_McD.
Well, Emily, since it is just the two of us kicking off this season, it is your honor this time for the closing quote. So what have you selected for us?
So this is from Jennifer Lee, who was Chief Creative Officer at Disney Animation. She's another voice that got heard a lot throughout this book. And this quote from her stood out to me right away. It's really early in the book, page 14, in the research section titled Reality into Fantasy. And she says this, quote, "We talked about what Disney means to us and realized that Disney is a feeling. It stirs something very deep inside you. It is a combination of wonder, joy, worry, and excitement all at once. These films give you the permission to laugh and to believe that things are possible while giving you the inspiration to persevere through life's challenges. Those feelings were what mattered and what we held close as we developed Wish." End quote.
Beautiful. I love that. And I'm so grateful that we had this chance to review The Art of Wish, to talk about the film, and thank you again to Chronicle Books for providing it to us.
Click a wish on some stars, everyone, and we'll see you in our next episode.
Book of the Mouse Club has no affiliation with the Walt Disney Company. The views and opinions expressed by hosts and participants are theirs and theirs alone. They do not represent the organizations or companies they happen to work for.